It's the end of the year and there's plenty of things wrestling-wise to look back fondly on and smile. Like everything in life though, there's also the opposite to that, which is where we shall focus our attention today. There's all manner of talking points from 2018 when it comes to WWE that could shape its future for years to come, and there are also some occasions where the ball was well and truly dropped. As we prep ourselves for 2019, you've got to assume the company hopes everyone just let such information fly away from their brains. And to be fair, that may already be happening, as you're about to see and as you're about to hear. My name is Simon from WhatCulture, and this is 10 things WWE wants you to forget about 2018. Number 10, the Royal Rumble winners. This year's Royal Rumble might as well have taken place in a parallel universe. A pretty good card from top to bottom, the two marquee matches ended with underdog victories that fans wanted to see. The fact it happened in both the men's and women's version was just delicious icing on the cake. What's more, each were Japanese. As ridiculous as it sounds today, WWE has always leaned towards American performers in its biggest roles. There was considerable cause for celebration when Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka threw 29 people over the top rope. Not only that, but it meant they should feature in prominent WrestleMania matches. The future was bright and there was considerable hope that we'd be in for a daring 12 months. We should have known. When Mania rolled around, not only was the Empress of Tomorrow's undefeated streak broken, but she fell off a cliff afterwards. Asuka was used so sparingly, there were even rumours she had heat backstage. Nakamura fared no better. As has happened time and time again, the Rumble winner didn't actually headline the showcase of the Immortals, and instead was told to boot AJ Styles in the balls before he too slowly vanished into dust. Today he barely gets featured on SmackDown, even though he's the US champ. Thankfully, Asuka has had a solid end to 2018, which gives us all hope, but maybe we should use all of the above as a reason to try and calm our expectations. Number 9, Enzo and Cass leave. In January 2018, Enzo Amore said goodbye to the WWE as he was let go. A difficult news story about him being under investigation by the Phoenix Police Department after an alleged sexual assault was at the center of it. And though the case was ultimately dropped due to a lack of evidence, the company still gave Amore the boot for having failed to inform them of his legal troubles. 5 months later, and his former tag team partner followed suit when he was relieved of his duties due to rumored backstage behavior that no one really appreciated. His time had run out. At the time of recording, Cass has also recently suffered a seizure at an indie event, so all best wishes to him. Let's hope he's doing okay. All of this was a shock for a tag team that at one point could do no wrong though. Their promotion to Raw was handled better than most, and while there were bumps in the road, they had a huge ally in their corner. The fans. If you predicted both would be out the door within a couple of years, I'm not sure anybody would have believed you. It was their breakup the year prior that really did them in. Some teams are just better than the sum of their parts, and that was the case here. It never should have happened, and Enzo and Cass should have been joined at the hip for life. A sobering lesson that the goal of becoming a single star isn't always the best, or one that will serve the individual in question how they want. In terms of Enzo too, he would also probably like it if you forgot about what he did at Survivor Series. Sheesh. Number 8, the not-so-fabulous Moolah. The best thing about 2018 is that the women's evolution in WWE finally seems legit. Not just lip service as the WWE tries to catch up, as the likes of Becky Lynch and Charlotte have proved they've earned their main event spot by having the best storylines and putting on the best performances. It's been great. It hasn't all been smooth sailing over the last 12 months, as the first ever women's WrestleMania Battle Royal showed us. Originally named after the fabulous Moolah, who has often been painted as a trailblazer through WWE eyes, her reputation away from the bubble was less than stellar. In controlling the fortunes of women wrestlers across North America, Moolah effectively acted as a pimp according to those who had to suffer through it, with many of her charges alleging sexual exploitation as part of the grim package. She was far from the figurehead of female empowerment the company were presenting, and fans were understandably outraged. It was only when news got to sponsor Mars that WWE decided to change tack, dropping the Moolah name and quickly acting like it never happened. Number 7, historically low ratings. The good thing about ratings is that really, we don't have to care. It helps if you hate Raw and SmackDown and want things changed. It's a pretty important number that could spark WWE into trying new things, but it doesn't really affect your day to day. That doesn't mean people on the inside are happy. They're absolutely not. Breaking records they do not want to break, Raw hit figures lower than ever before, as seemingly the audience decided they just didn't want to watch anymore. All this as well after WWE secured record deals that start in 2019. 2019, what a topsy-turvy year it's really been. The real issue has been the lack of an excuse too. While during the summer there was a surprise downward trend, political or sporting competition was enough to justify it. That's not the case now as we do roll into the new year. Nothing seemed to balance it out either. Legends returning, titles changing, scathing promos. There was no spark which reversed the trend, and now WWE has an interesting battle on its hands. Ratings do usually pick up in January as people return to get ready for the WrestleMania build, but what if this time they don't? Let's hope it's a question we don't have to answer. Number 6, the success of All In. While I loved it, you loved it, and most wrestling fans loved it, you have to assume WWE did not love All In, and that yes, it's something they want to forget. That and the fact a rival company has sold out Madison Square Garden in April. What's worse for the big dogs is that everyone said it could never be done. No one could compete with WWE on such a level, even for one night, and yet Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks absolutely did, and they did it with style. In true 2018 fashion, it all started on Twitter too. When Dave Meltzer was asked on the social media platform if an independent promotion could ever sell 10,000 tickets, his doubtful response laid down the gauntlet. Cody was going to prove him wrong, and boy howdy did he do just that. While many assume this was all part of the work, who cares? Tickets sold out in about 30 minutes even though only one match had been announced. Fans were going to support it no matter what the fallout was going to be, and that can't have pleased WWE HQ. It was the biggest shot against their bow for some time. Now we just have to wait and see what happens in 2019 with the Elite. Maybe a whole new war is on the horizon, and Vince McMahon has only recently forgotten about the last one. Here's to All In 2. Number 5, that Bobby Lashley angle. Weird thing about this one is that I had actually forgotten about it because remembering it was too sad for my face. Lashley may be treading water at the moment, but that's far better than what happened in May of 2018. Probably in the running for worst angle of the year. As Bobby entered a feud with Sami Zayn though, someone thought it would be a great idea to walk a bunch of dudes in drag out and pretend they were Lashley's sisters. Forget the fact it was awful regardless, but it was also offensive. The only people in the world that could have gotten away with coming up with this were children under the age of 6. The joke was meant to be, look at these men with facial hair dressed as women, a concept we're all trying to move away from in 2018 as we push for understanding and education. This did not help with that. Even worse, it didn't help anybody else either. Zayn wasn't a bigger heel, Lashley didn't get any extra momentum as far as I could tell. It was just there looking at you like a zit you wanted to pop and move on from. We'll probably get more stuff like this in 2019 as well. After all, a few months later, Drake Maverick was pissing himself. Number 4, Shawn Michaels' comeback. You could debate this one as there are pros and cons, although the most important takeaway is that Shawn Michaels wanted to do it, and therefore it was the right move. Who am I to tell one of the greatest pro wrestlings that he shouldn't have come back to the ring? Exactly. The issues came with how HBK had walked away from the spotlight, however. Ending on a high and having what many called the perfect retirement match, which also went down at WrestleMania, the biggest of shows, there wasn't much else Michaels could do to win people over. His legacy was set, and he would forever be cited as a legend. Now though, if he does indeed stay out of the squared circle, his finale will be in an okay but not all that memorable tag match, which also saw his best friend Triple H get seriously injured. Doesn't have the same poetry to it that way. In post-match interviews, it did seem like there was some implication that Shawn didn't overly enjoy it, even if he walked away with a rumoured huge paycheck. The reason you want to forget about it, mind, is because then you just default back to WrestleMania 26, where everything was peaches and cream. Number 3, Hulk Hogan, sorry but not sorry. The Hulk Hogan situation has become a difficult one. I'm not here to say anybody is right or wrong, but for me personally, I just don't feel the need to see him in a WWE ring anymore. Too much has happened, and a lot of it is difficult to process. That's not what is going to go down long term, because in July of 2018, he was welcomed back into the fold. After being scrubbed from WWE history books in 2015 after the leaked sex tape and subsequent fallout, he was pasted back in, including into the Hall of Fame, just prior to Extreme Rules. He was also invited backstage to make amends, and for reasons we still don't know, this was filmed. I'm sure in 2019 we'll learn more. Unfortunately, it didn't go down well even among WWE superstars. Several names criticised Hogan for his apparent lack of remorse, even if there was a touch of acceptance at the same time. It seems as if Hulk had told his fellow wrestlers to be more careful because of the technological age we live in, as opposed to, I'm really sorry for what I said. The latter seems more appropriate. After his appearance at Crown Jewel, you have to guess a Mania spot is on the cards too. Make it of it what you will. Number 2, the Greatest Royal Rumble. When WWE announced plans for a show in Saudi Arabia with a weird name that technically overshadowed both 30 years of programming as well as whatever's going to happen once a year forever, it was difficult not to be intrigued because it was also different. Jeddah's Royal Rumble promised a staggeringly large version of everyone's favourite stipulation match, with 50 men vying for a special green belt and a big gold trophy. We also had every title on the main roster up for grabs, and the murmurings that huge names would be brought out of retirement to compete on the show. On paper, this was a dandy. Then the dust began to settle, and the context of it became much clearer. WWE had seemingly agreed a large deal in order to promote propaganda-like pieces for the country, while also putting on a spectacle to boot. There's nothing wrong with that, until you learn that women wouldn't be allowed on the event, nor would Sami Zayn because of his religious beliefs, and then of course was the approach to homosexuality. All of that is very difficult to accept and swallow. A one and done for 2018 was the hope, but that's not what happened because number 1, Crown Jewel. Now, the one thing WWE wants to make sure you do remember until you die is that Shane McMahon is the best in the world, so make sure you do that. But the second pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia was even more controversial than the first and really should have never taken place. It wasn't so surprising given that we'd already been overseas in April, but when Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi was allegedly murdered with even more speculation that this was linked to the Saudi government, well, it was awful, wasn't it? WWE remained mostly silent throughout this until deciding they would live up to the deal regardless. Once again, morals were getting right in the way of entertainment. The exact same human rights concerns that had plagued the Greatest Royal Rumble resurfaced, now with the added bonus of a shocking incident on top. The show itself was genuinely crazy, which at least from an enjoyment point of view meant there was some fun to be had, but when the reality of the situation returns to hit you in the jaw, well, it's best just to try and forget about it.